Hello students, teachers, parents, history nerds. Hello everybody, and welcome to Nutshelled History, where we lay out the facts, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We continue with our Early America series with George Washington's presidency. Check the description down below for a fill-in-the-blanks worksheet that goes along with this video. I just ask that you like and subscribe. Alright, let's go. Although the Constitution had established the executive branch, it did not say much about how it should be organized. It was up to the first president, George Washington, to set many precedents or examples for others to follow. He chose experienced leaders to help him. Together, the secretaries of the Departments of State, Treasury, and War, and the Postmaster General and the Attorney General made up the cabinet. The American Revolution had left the nation deeply in debt. Alexander Hamilton, the new Secretary of the Treasury, intended to pay back all federal and state debts in full. To begin, he asked Congress to pass a national tariff or a tax on imported goods. The money from the tariff would go to pay for the government. Next, Hamilton planned to buy back all the bonds that the government had issued. Most original bondholders had sold their bonds to speculators who had paid just pennies for each dollar the bonds were worth. Led by James Madison, many Southerners objected to rewarding speculators by paying the full value of the bonds. Nor did they want the federal government to pay state debts, because many of the Southern states had already paid their debts on their own. The South eventually agreed to this part of Hamilton's plan, and in return, the government agreed to build its capital in the South. Then, Hamilton urged the establishment of a national bank. In addition to holding government funds, the bank issued paper money and made loans to encourage free enterprise. However, a new tax on alcohol led to trouble. Many corn farmers made whiskey from their crops because the alcohol was more profitable, lasted longer, and was easier to transport. They opposed this tax and refused to pay it. Some Pennsylvania farmers launched a violent protest, the Whiskey Rebellion. Washington sent militia to stop the rebellion, showing that such actions would not be tolerated. When the French Revolution began in 1789, Americans supported the effort of the French people to overthrow their king. By 1793, however, growing violence in France during the Reign of Terror divided Americans. When France attacked Austria, it caused Britain to declare war on France. The United States was an ally of France, but if the U.S. agreed to let France use American ports, Washington worried that the young nation would be targeted by Britain once again. Washington declared that the United States would remain neutral. Despite this declaration, Britain and France seized American ships headed to each other's ports. Washington sent John Jay to negotiate a treaty with Britain. Under the treaty, the United States agreed to pay debts owed to British merchants. Britain agreed to pay for the ships it had seized and to withdraw its troops from the Northwest Territory. Washington wrote his farewell address at the end of his second term. He advised Americans to avoid political divisions at home. Washington also emphasized his belief that the United States must stay out of European affairs. Okay, it's recap time. When George Washington became president, he had no example to follow. Luckily, he was smart and set good examples for future presidents to follow. He chose smart men to advise him. One of these men was a financial genius, and he would be our first Secretary of the Treasury. In this position, Alexander Hamilton had to deal with our debt and convinced Congress to pass a tariff. He also convinced the South to support the federal government paying off state debts by moving our capital to Washington, D.C. We started our national bank and started to tax whiskey. Whiskey Rebellion. Washington put it down. France started a revolution, and it was good till it wasn't. France was an ally, but we were new, so Washington declared neutrality. Britain and France impressed our ships anyway. John Jay negotiated a treaty, and we would pay our debts to British merchants. Washington said farewell after 2 terms, another of the precedents that he set. There you have it, folks. That is Washington's presidency nutshelled. Thanks for stopping by Nutshelled History. Set an important precedent by going nuts on those like and subscribe buttons. Tell us how nuts you went in the comments down below.